Start a walk in a crazy fashion, you're going to have a crazy walk. There we go. Good. So Daisy's first walk, she's had a prong collar introduction. She's super comfortable, super savvy with the tool. This is her first walk on the prong. So we're doing thresholds, and then we're headed out on the walk, and we'll see how pulley she is and all that stuff. All right, let's walk up to this threshold. Let's go. Dog stops when I stop. Little pressure there from the prong. I didn't ask for a sit, but she gave me it, so that's awesome. If she wants to offer it, my rules are handler stops, dog stops. So, and I don't want her out in front of me. I want her right next to me. So, no. So she's interested in going to Marta. Marta's standing right there. She's done a lot more training with Marta. So she's also got a gravitational pull towards Marta. So if there was no one here at the bottom of our steps, Dave would probably already be doing better. But that's the interesting thing of when you're filming stuff. And if you've got a cameraman that's worked with the dog a lot, then, or a camera woman, then it can be tough for the dog because the dog wants to go to them. So when I'm ready to go, I'm not going to say heel because we're not going to be able to heel down these steps. Most likely it's going to be a messy thing. And I haven't taught her heel. So that would be a bad choice. But I will say, let's go. Let's go is our loose leash. Let's go means move with me, but you don't have to move with me in some perfect kind of position. So let's go. So wanting to come barreling down. So I'm just going to come back up, shut my door. Notice I'm not using a ton of pressure. Like when she's kind of pulling, I'm doing a little bit of springy kind of action with my arm right now. I don't want these to be firm corrections with the prong when she's just headed out on the walk and getting introduced to this. She'll apply too much pressure just from her own kind of excited pulling, and then we'll get a vocalization and stuff like that. All right, let's go this way, and we'll see how it goes. So let's go. Now, heel. Heel. I'm going to walk slow, and I'm going to start to feel out the amount of pressure that's appropriate. Heel. That's appropriate to keep her in the right position, get her to pay attention, get her to slow down. Heel. So right now I'm doing kind of an in-between. What I don't want to do is I don't want to do a slow pullback like I would if I was teaching e-collar heel, but I'm not ready to do a firmer, swift pop with her. So I'm doing a kind of in-between. I'm kind of just getting her acclimated. Heel. So it's not quite a pop and it's not quite a pull. It's a pow. Heel. And I'm happy adding the words straight away. You know me. Heel. If I've got the tool on and I know I'm going to be able to put the dog in about the 90 to 95% zone of what the finished product will look like, then I'm super comfortable to add the words straight away, because what I'm going to do is just take that 90 and turn it into 100% over time. Hopefully you guys can hear me over the over the train that always knows when we're filming. Heel. Heel. So you can see the pressure. Heel. Heel. Like I said, it's a little bit between a pop and a little bit between a pull. Why? Because she's a youngster and she's just getting comfy and used to it. Yep. So let's cross over here. A lot of action out here. Yep. 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 So obviously Daisy's super distracted by everything. Yep. distracted by Marta being behind us, distracted by people, distracted by all the stuff. Got a dog coming up here, so let's cross over. Heel. Not exactly a quiet time of day. Yep. Trains rocking. People are pounding on walls. Yep. I hear it too. So, for your first walk, yep, it's super okay for it to be messy. Yep. Expect it to be messy. But for anybody who feels like by adding the word and saying heel with the walk is messy like this, you don't really understand how this works, because what's happening is, like I said, we're about 90% there as far as the position that I'm looking for. Heel. All we're going to do is just narrow that percentage to where the heel is really, really articulated. And I like it because the dog hears the word earlier in the training sequence, heel, and has more time to start making an association with it. Word, position. Yeah. So, heel. Heel. So a couple things to notice. One, I'm walking really slow. Why is that? Because it's way harder for the dog, which means if I just sped up, it would be an easy position for her. She'd still probably pull, but it'd be much easier. And I would have less certainty that the dog is actually holding the position of heel if I'm just flying along at a speed that feels comfortable for the dog to walk at, which we'll eventually get to. But when I'm training it, I like to walk slow. So if the dog is in position, I know that the dog is actually giving me the position because I'm training it, not just because it's an accident or a lucky a lucky byproduct of our speed. Yep. Now, once again, we've got Marta with, like, you can't see it, but a camera on a gimbal, yep, kind of over Daisy here. We even do a little sit right here. Sit. Good. So Daisy's had a bunch of work inside, so she knows this stuff, so that's why I can share that with her. Also, if you're wondering why I said good for the sit, but not for any of the heel stuff, it's because this, she's calm and executing really, really well, so I can mark it with good. It's not going to mess her up. She's not going to blow out of the sit. If I'm trying to teach a dog how to heel and all they want to do is go forward and they're already excited, the last thing I want to do, the last thing I want to do is add more excitement and cause her to make a mistake, right? So if she's trying to hold herself back and I'm saying good, even if it's neutral, it's really easy to goose her up and cause her to make a mistake. And same thing with touch, pet, you know, any of that stuff. So, ready? Heel. Now what I'm going to start doing is slowly sneaking in, heel, little bit sharper pops, not necessarily harder, but just quicker. Heel. So I can really articulate this position that I want with her. Heel. 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 And if you notice, the leash isn't tight, but it's short and it's behind me because right now I want the dog's head parallel with my leg. Yep. 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 I want the dog's head parallel with my leg. And if I put my arm in its natural position, then it can accidentally miscue the dog before they have the command fully locked in. So I won't be walking like this forever. Heel. But right now, it helps that where my arm is hanging straight down, the chain hangs straight down, which then heel has the dog's head right in position. Couple things to check out. Heel. Make sure you're not just pulling the dog back into position and just repositioning the dog. I did a little bit more pulling initially. Like I said, it was in between a pop and a pull. It's insanity out right now. I don't know if you guys can hear it all. A little bit in between a pop and a pull. Now I'm just doing small pops. Yep. And she's walking actually pretty nicely. What I was saying, I think, was that keeping the leash short but not tight, hanging straight down from my arm position, puts her head in the right position, and the amount of motion I need to use, if you notice what my arm and wrist are doing and fingers, is a very tiny motion. Yep. So Marta's walking out in front. Yep. As you can tell, she's starting to mess up more because Marta's out in front. So that's a very natural thing. If you're working with your dog, if you're a trainer and you're working with an owner, be careful of where, especially if you've got multiple family members out, be careful where you position them initially. Down the road, it doesn't matter, but initially, because what you'll do is you'll cause the dog to want to go to whoever's out in front. So even if it's not a family member, comes the train again, a camera person, anything like that, all of that can easily distract. Yep. So what I like to tell people, especially for initial walks, and then for go-home sessions, if you're a trainer, once again, doing a go-home session, make sure if you're training your client, don't let your client be like 5 feet ahead. Heel. Initially, don't let your client be 5 feet ahead because the dog's going to want to go to the client. Heel. Down the road, you can ask all sorts of things from the dog. The dog should be able to handle different family members in different spots, all sorts of distractions. But at the beginning of training like this, you want to keep that stuff easy. And then at go-home sessions, even though the dog's trained, the dog's super excited to see their owners, going to be distracted by the owner. So she's concerned just by Marta walking behind her. Yep. That's why you're seeing the head turn around and stuff like that. Shows you how easily dogs are distracted by people's motion. Yep. No, you don't get to eat the sock. But once again, you see the motion that I'm using is, just to clarify, the motion I'm using is a little bit back and a little bit to the side, right? It's going behind my rump and a little bit back. So that's kind of the motion. It's not perfectly to the side and it's not straight back. It's kind of just like this. So the world's a bit noisy for Daisy right now. Yep. Once again, good Lord. Once again, a couple things to check out that I would recommend, guys. Yep. Make sure your prong is fit correctly, right? We got a 2.25 on her. Yep. Nice and snug. So make sure you got a good fit starting there. No. Make sure your leash isn't too loose. I mean, if I have a leash this loose, I've got to make a huge motion to bring her back. Not only that, the dog's going to see all that extra leash and be aware of it and make worse choices initially. Down the line, if you're really, really interested, I'm not a big advocate because I don't like the risk involved of a longer leash. But if you're super, super interested in like, I gotta have the loose leash J, you can create that down the road. Like I said, I don't recommend it because it just means your dog has more room to get into trouble, run into people, lunge at dogs, do things like that. I like a short leash no matter what. Unless I'm letting the dog go potty or something like that, right? So if I want like, go potty, go potty, go on. She doesn't know what to do with it. There we go. So that would be the time when I'd give her some leash. Oh, look at you. Look at all stuff. But not when I'm walking her. I want to have nice control of my dog. If you've got a bigger dog and you're smaller, or if your dog is prone to reactivity or anything like that, then you really want to be careful that you don't do a longer leash and give your dog the opportunity to put physics in their corner, which means longer leash, more runway before the dog gets the end of it, which means more injury pressure risk for you. So once again, I'll take my leash, shorten it up, heel, heel. So little pops, heel, slow speed. My check-off list, what did I have? So I said prong collar, nice and snug. Yeah, it's just a zoo right now. It's 5 o'clock. That's okay. So the check-off list, it'll get quieter when we get down here. So the check-off list, guys, prong collar, good fit. Leash, short but not tight, heel. Heel. Speed, nice and slow, so you know the dog is walking the heel in your position, not just at a comfortable pace and just you think you're heeling, heel. Don't speed up accidentally just because the dog is. It's a real easy, it's something I see all the time with clients. Dogs start speeding up and the clients will just speed up a little bit. Almost, well, not almost. They won't even realize they're doing it. Heel. The other thing that people will do a lot is they'll go to give a correction or a pop, heel, and they'll stop. You don't want to do that. The goal is the dog slows down to your position and your motion, heel. You don't slow down or stop, heel. The dog is going to position in conjunction with your motion, heel. And it can be confusing for the dog. I hate the concept of like, well, which a lot of people teach, especially in the pure positive world. If your dog pulls, just stop until they stop pulling, be a tree, and then you start walking again, heel. I think that's a really dumb way to teach heel. Heel. Instead, teach the dog to slow down to the appropriate pace while you're walking, rather than some kind of monkey business BS where you don't have to use corrections, and that will hopefully teach the dog you only get the walk that you want when you walk in my position. Silliness. Yo. And over the course of multiple days of doing this, this position is going to become very patterned, very normal, and really easy for Daisy. Daisy's going to be a great walker, I can already tell. I mean, she wants to go faster, which I totally get. But, Daisy, come on, hold it together. She wants to go faster, which I totally get. But she's not really being major pain with it. She's concerned about things. She's concerned about things going on around her, but that's most likely just puppy stuff, youth stuff. And if she's not allowed to start bad habits of reactivity, then she should probably not have any. And on that checkoff list, heel, you want to make sure that your pops are significant when you're doing these little prong corrections or prong pops. Heel. If they're way too mild, the dog will just continue to pull, 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 pull. If they're way too hard, you'll freak out and overwhelm the dog. That's why you're noticing I'm trying to find that sweet spot. I'm not nailing her with some big, big correction or 180s because she's not pulling exceptionally hard or being relentless about anything. Heel. She's just learning to get into this position and slow herself down. And so I'm really kind of just meeting her where she's at. So am I doing a fair amount of corrections? Yeah, I am. Heel. But they feel like the fair spot to meet Daisy right now. With her age and with the intensity that she's giving me, this feels like a fair way to approach it. Doesn't feel like I'm just like nagging her, although some people might feel that way. Heel. You have to really find your own kind of sweet spot of what you feel is the sweet spot. I'm more than happy to use 180s or bigger corrections on dogs that are really, in a space of being, super out of control. Heel. But obviously that's not her. So it wouldn't make sense to heel. It wouldn't make sense. I don't know if we got a dog down there that made that noise or what. Oh yeah, they're going inside. Heel. So it wouldn't make sense, sorry, to really nail her with that. But if I'm like this, heel. That's just the train. Heel. If I'm doing these kind of little pops, these are going to be nagging pops. Those aren't even basically pops, but they're so small, like you can see she doesn't even care. Right? So all they're doing is just nagging her. What I'm doing is kind of, yep, a bit sharper, but nothing crazy. Yep, no. So for a first walk, not too shabby, no. And like I said, and this isn't an excuse, it's just a reality check. If there was no one with us, she would still be distracted by things like this, but she wouldn't be distracted by Marta's presence behind us, around us, things like that. So she'd probably be doing better. So if you're out and you don't have a camera person with you, you'd probably be doing better with a dog like this. Heel. So really the biggest challenge with Daisy is just her age and being very, very distracted by every single thing that goes on. Every sound is really, really distracting her. Heel. No. When you hear me saying no, that's either for like sniffing me, going behind my legs, trying to sniff plants, something like that. I only use 2 commands really, except unless I'm saying sit. Let's go on over here. For the walk, and that's heel for position and no for you shouldn't be doing that, like, which might mean don't stare at that dog, don't try and sniff that bush. Heel. Heel. So stronger pop. She's making mistakes because she's concerned about Marta, right? So you see, every time you see her look over there is because she's concerned about Marta's position. So Now Marta's parallel with us, so we'll see how she does. She doesn't have to be worried about something behind her, just to her side. She'll probably get pretty comfy with that. Or not. But once again, no. So, typical reaction, no. So I'm correcting for all of those reactions to the dog, no. Which are just like herky-jerking around. I could say heel to try and put her back in the position, but I really want to disagree with the kind of overt reaction that feels unnecessary. Now, I get why she's doing it. I'm not saying she's being inappropriate. It's just a reaction that we don't want to allow to continue. So I want her to become used to dogs making sounds like that on walks and not getting freaked out or worried about it. Heel. Heel. But if this is a first walk, imagine where you'd be in a week or 2 or 3. Yep. So that is Daisy's first walk with a prong collar. Everybody who's so like overly dramatic, overly upset, freaked out by prong collars and, you know, assuming they're these horrendous, you know, torture devices. It's like, well, you just saw a young, how old is she again?
4.5 months.
4.5-month-old doodle. Get out of there. Out on her first walk on a prong collar, being corrected multiple times, and you see her demeanor, and she seems to be just fine. So don't believe the hype, guys. It's really just a bunch of silliness. But that all said, several things went into making sure that this wasn't an insane walk where she would need higher levels of pressure and things like that. First of all, she got introduced to the prong inside. We'll shoot another video where I'll demo prong collar introduction, even though I have other videos on it, but we'll shoot another one of those at some point. But so she wasn't unfamiliar with the prong. It wasn't brand new. It wasn't something that she had to take in, you know, the whole thing of the excitement and overwhelm and everything of the walk, excitement, overwhelm of the walk, and dealing with the sensation of the prong collar and all of that. So that helped. It also helped that I didn't start off as she was getting into the groove by like nailing her with big corrections, right? So I started off really mild and then found kind of the sweet spot and moved into that. And it took us, I don't know, probably 10 minutes before I started to give her like little straight pops. But once again, they were light pops and they were the right level or right intensity for her. And could you have a 4.5-month-old dog that needs bigger pops? Sure. You could have a dog that's not very sensitive and really determined to pull and needs higher pressure, could use 180s, no, something like that. So that's absolutely possible. You could also have a dog her age who needs much, much lighter stuff, even though that was pretty light. So there's a dog over there. So that's good to see her reaction. Just curious. She's great with other dogs. Anyways, so I think that's it, guys. Hopefully we covered a bunch of ground. Nothing groundbreaking. It's simple stuff. Don't let this be something more complex than it needs to be. Like I said, your checklist, make sure your prong collar is the right size. It's the right actual gauge, plus it's actually fit correctly. Make sure you've got a leash, got your leash in the proper grip to where the length is right, to where it's short but not tight. You don't want tension on it. Make sure you're not just pulling the dog back. Make sure that you're not walking too fast and speeding up to be in the dog's position. That's it, guys. I hope you're well. And any questions, hit me up and we'll go from there. All right? See you.